Eric Jones, big guy. I'm thinking my brother graduated '96. Well, he was 2 years older than my brother. Well, he passed away. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think they found him. I don't know if he ever woke up. I think it's why I couldn't get him up. It's like my brother was home this weekend. I had to tell him that. He's really nice, big guy. Mm-hmm. So I probably shouldn't say this, but like when I go back to Birmingham, it's just they have a heavy food. You been downtown, UAB, it's food trucks, so you can go right around the corner to Blueprint on the third or anywhere. They're not there all day. Yeah, they're gone. Every night you got a late night or some, but it doesn't. I just like seeing a direct connection. I guess that's my thing. Please, like, that's the beauty.
Good morning, y'all. Y'all doing all right?
Good, you right?
Hello, hello. How's everybody?
Hey man, how you doing?
Everything going all right?
Everything's going good.
I did a little thing get together with Nancy yesterday.
He been staying away from me.
Everyone. All right, I've got 5 o'clock. So I will call this work session of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that all members of the City Council are present. Council, we've got 2 ordinances that were introduced at our last council meeting 3 weeks ago. I wanted to set aside some time tonight to discuss both at length. And I also want to draw your attention to the agenda items. You'll notice that each one of them we've got a public hearing for. Rainer, that's not required, is it? I mean, I like the idea of having it. Is it a requirement of an ordinance like this? Right. Well, the way the agenda is made out, we did it as a public hearing. So if they want to speak on those specific ordinances, we could just ask them to hold until we bring that up. I mean, okay. Well, that's the way the agenda is written. So I kind of like that. We've never done that before, but I just want to bring that to your attention. So, food truck ordinance. All of you should have had that for several weeks now. Opportunity to get feedback. So, what are y'all's thoughts? Go ahead, Greg.
All right. Well, just talking to numerous people, I have a couple of tweaks I'd like to look at on that. On the location section, we say that food trucks may not operate on the public right-of-way or city-owned property described within 150 feet of the sitting area of any type of restaurant located within or attached to a permanent structure or building.
So which item is that?
That's section 2, locations.
Okay.
So the last sentence, it's a long sentence there.
Okay.
There was a suggestion that I kind of liked, that we maybe say within the posted business hours. So within 150 feet of a sitting area, any type of restaurant during their posted business hours. However that needs to be worded, because there may be a time that a restaurant doesn't open on certain days, that maybe an event or something a neighboring business wanted to do an event that would require that food truck to be on some sort of city property. Or
so let's just say theoretically that a restaurant was not open on Saturdays. You're saying that you want to amend it that would allow a food truck within 150 feet of that specific restaurant, because
mainly because it wouldn't be in competition. You know, if they were open, had posted business hours and were open, then you obviously would not want that to be right there in their face. But and then even if we don't put that in there, I'd like to put something in there that allows that within 150 feet on a special event where we have a road closure. And the reason for that is there are restaurants in some of the areas that we typically will close streets and already put food trucks on those streets, and I don't want this to be in conflict with our standard process, such as like when we close College Street for the Downtown Fall Festival. There are food trucks that get set up in that area that would be within 150 feet of at least 2 restaurants that is currently allowed right now and does not seem to be.
So wouldn't they be in those specific times? Wouldn't they be operating under a special event license?
Possibly. If they are, then that may eliminate the need to change this.
Who would be our?
And I'm not even.
Tracy or Jonathan, y'all want to weigh in on that?
I think that's my bigger concern than even the posted business hour thing.
So if we're having a downtown fall festival, And we have food vendors down there. They're operating under a special event license, correct?
Currently, they are. However, the other suggestion too that you might want to consider is that those food trucks who are setting up on that street, they pay to actually set up there. So allowing them to be within 150 feet would circumvent that sponsor for collecting that amount for that particular spot if they were allowed to set up 150 feet. So that's something that you probably have to work out with the sponsor, like the chamber or downtown.
I don't understand.
So let's say they have College Street set up they have to register for the particular event through the sponsor. So if, say, someone wants to set up on Easy Street because it's outside of 150 feet, then they could right off the back of that particular event without registering with that particular sponsor. That whole event gets exempted by the health department. So, and they also have to be inspected by the fire chief.
They would only be able to set up, let's say in your hypothetical on Easy Street, if the city gave them permission, right?
Not necessarily. A business owner can give them permission because we've had that happen before, where a food truck was allowed to set up on Easy Street in front of a particular business.
Under this ordinance, if they're on a public street,
they have parking spots there too, and so
who owns that parking spot? I guess
it would go with that business generally. So, for example, there's a couple of restaurants downtown. They have like 2 or 3 spots that belong to them, so that for their customers. And so when it was proposed to us from a particular business for not a food truck but a different type of vendor to come in, they had to get permission from that property owner to set up, taking up their 2 parking spots.
of course, if they're on private property. Yeah. Jonathan, you want to weigh in on this? I know you and I had some discussion.
Specifically, which piece of it, Councilman?
So the question is, if they're operating within the, let's just say the public right of way, on say Easy Street, hypothetically, during a downtown street closure fall festival. Me and you talked about that particular type situation. It wasn't your understanding that they would have to have permission of the city since that's a public?
Correct. All public right-of-ways, according to that ordinance, they'd have to get permission from the property owner, which in this case would be the city. So they would have to ask the city's permission to utilize. So, like, in other words, on a normal day, Main Street is very well trafficked and parking spaces are at a premium. I don't imagine that the mayor would approve an event or a request to utilize public right-of-way during a heavily trafficked time of the day on Main Street. Of course, that would be at his discretion or your discretion, whatever the ordinance would permit. But things like that would be taken into consideration before they would just say, "Oh, you're in a public right-of-way. Sure, here's a permit."
So I think the big question here is going to be whether or not those parking spaces are considered public right-of-way or the businesses parking.
They're public right-of-way.
Okay. Well, if it's public right-of-way, then this ordinance
From curb
takes
to curb, that's
Correct. It's owned by Aldot. It's
Or the
100% public right-of-way.
or the city.
the
If
side
it's-
street should be city
or the
street.
city. Correct.
Um,
Well, I think the ordinance prohibits that without city approval at that point. Then.
Correct.
Okay.
It does.
Yeah, I mean, we can come up with 1,000 different hypotheticals. I think that's what we as councilmen should try to do, is to give the administration, otherwise every ordinance would be that big, give the mayor and his staff the leeway to handle those as they come forward, right?
And the same would apply for City Hall parking lot, Civic Center parking lot.
They would have to have
the park. They would have to have the property owner's permission, which in this case would be the city. And so they just can't go and set up shop.
Right. This is not allowing just free for all on the city property and side roads and all that.
Correct. And there may be events. If we have something at the Civic Center booked or whatever, we would obviously check and reference those kind of things and use common sense. we wouldn't allow a food truck with, unless it was sponsored by the event. For instance, like the credit union car sale, if they decided they wanted to set up some kind of food trucks out there, they would have permission to operate on there as long as it was done, vetting it through the All-In Credit Union or whoever the
Yeah, we did that during the CERT event. We had a couple food trucks out there and had to get permission from the city for that particular event.
So let me just clarify, make sure I'm understanding here. If we enact this ordinance and it specifically says they may not operate on the public right of way within 150 feet. I think what we were trying to really get the clarification on is there an event ordinance or something set up that would supersede this during an event, or do we need to change something in this ordinance to allow?
Probably depends which license they're operating under.
Well, if, right now, we're like location specific, so if we would have a business license specifically for food truck, that would be attached to that particular NAICS code, which would be this one. So it would.
So let me just think this through. Let's have a food truck that has a annual business license to operate a food truck, and then they pay the event fee to be set up, say on College Street during the Downtown Fall Festival. Would this ordinance prohibit them from being able to do that the way we currently have it written?
I don't see anything here that would.
Okay. If it doesn't, then that we don't need to change anything.
I think, Greg, you bring up a point that probably should be addressed in the ordinance, just for clarity purposes. What I would say is, unless there's a special event sanctioned by the city, special event license granted by the city or the entertainment district. I mean, I think that we should just say that.
I agree.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So you got notes on both of his. So restate your 2 points and let's make sure there's no discussion here.
One point is not as important to me as the other one. So the first point that is important is make sure when we have an event where we have street closures downtown, that this ordinance does not cause a problem for the standard operation of that event. And we stop food trucks from being able to set up in the Downtown Fall Festival like we currently do.
All right.
I won't interrupt that.
Stop there. Scotty, I assume you're fine adding that provision.
Exactly.
All right. Now what you're saying.
And the second one, it's not near as important to me, is that I was given a suggestion by some groups that I talked to in reference to this ordinance that we would consider adding here that they cannot operate within 150 feet of the seating area of any type of restaurant during that restaurant's posted business hours.
Scotty, you okay with?
That way, if they were not open on a Saturday and Sunday, and we wanted to give someone the approval to open close to that restaurant, we could do that without being in violation of
And that shouldn't affect an event going on during your business hours.
Yeah, so
time.
I mean, if it's typical business hours, then it wouldn't be approved.
I agree.
So you said,
Yeah.
You said within 100.
Right.
It would stay with the 150
Stay with
feet.
it, okay.
Okay.
And that provision, just so everybody's clear, that provision only applies to public right-of-way and city-owned property.
Mhm.
So if somebody owned a lot, that 150-foot exclusion would not apply. That would be private property.
Yeah, this is just on city right-of-way.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, a lot of this really comes in because of the way downtown is structured. And even then, even with that provision, the administration would still have to give permission for that to open. It just opens up administration's ability just a little bit more to approve a potential after-hours event. Say a restaurant closes at 6. I'm just throwing a crazy number out there. Closes at 6, and a neighboring business there wants to have an event that starts at 8. So as long as it doesn't interfere with that affected business hours, then the mayor's office could then say, yes, you can open during that on that public right of way.
Right.
I'm trying to keep them from getting hemmed in to not being able to
Right.
make
No,
common sense decisions.
Eugene,
But
Sonia.
there's also a lot of shopping centers and things like that too.
So shopping centers are private property
This
in
is
general, right?
I really feel like the majority of where this is going to fall, especially when it's talking about near to restaurants, is going to be the downtown area, because we don't have the Civic Center, City Hall, none of that. None of the other properties really have that proximity. But we do need to make sure we're not creating a major issue on Main Street, and that's why we're trying to give, the mayor's office that opportunity to make those decisions.
Right. Sonia and Eugene, you okay with that? Okay. All right.
May I make a comment?
Absolutely.
I noticed the letters that we have received from some of the restaurants and other comments I've heard, they make note of out-of-town food trucks. Now, this ordinance doesn't mean in town, out of town, it pertains to all food trucks.
Correct.
So, out-of-town food trucks is not something that we are putting in any kind of limit on.
Right. And currently, an out-of-town food truck can operate in the city if they go through the process of getting their through the current process right now. They can get a business license, they can be inspected, they can set up their, is it 2 locations, 1 location? They get that 1 location. They can go through that process and set up right now. This isn't changing the ability for them to come in from out of
What
town.
I'm saying, that we're not showing any partiality between the guy that lives here in town that owns the food truck and the guy that lives in Dothan owns the food truck.
Correct. As long as they pay their business license and sales tax.
I would just ask, one other thing you mentioned when we spoke was annual fire inspection.
Yeah, I hadn't got there
Okay,
yet, but
okay.
I'm heading there. So I've read a number of comments that Chief Davis has sent in, and I think a lot of those are very valid. My thought on this, instead of going through and writing a ton of stuff in this ordinance that's already covered by other ordinances, is maybe we could just add a section in that allows for an annual fire inspection.
Something that would pull the trigger for that to be checked up on.
Yeah,
right.
I agree.
An annual.
So I think that by coincidence, if y'all look on page 43 in the business license ordinance, which we're about to discuss, look on page 43 at the back in the schedules. It says $150 flat fee for food trucks must show current health inspection and pass a fire inspection and proof of insurance. So that's being covered by this ordinance. Is that your understanding, Jonathan?
If you adopt that ordinance, it would, yes.
So I think y'all's concerns are being actually handled by the trigger would be when they renew their business license. You wouldn't renew it unless they have those items that are required here.
That was my understanding at the time, is that wasn't covered in there. So that's great.
Well, it's
Take
not
care of
covered
it.
in the food truck ordinance, but it is covered in the business license.
Until
Right.
it's passed.
Right. So I think what me personally, I'm not speaking for the rest of this council here, what I'm trying to do is simplify everything down and not put every little thing into this one ordinance that's covered by other things or could potentially be covered by this other, business license ordinance. And I know, discussing with some surrounding cities the way they do it, some of them have a sticker that every year gets put in the window of that food truck once that inspection has been done, that if they're set up in town and the fire department wants to go around, they can see if that current sticker is in the window.
And there's nothing here that would prevent Chief Davis from implementing.
Right.
I think that covers pretty much everything. Anything else was just safety concerns that, quite honestly, can be part of a reminder of an annual inspection. Making sure that they're aware of cool down times and stuff like that. Again, there's nobody inside of the vehicle when they're turning something off. That's not,
Right.
I'm not trying to get inside of their business. I think it's just important, and there's quite a few stories of trucks that have been hit or otherwise that have created some pretty. Yeah. The one of the other big things is a lot of times when we go to private property, and you guys have covered this on the public right of way, they'll be interested in trying to wire into an electrical panel, just themselves. I don't mean, you know what I'm talking about. That is definitely a concern, as it can be a hazard for both the truck and the structure itself. I'm not saying that I have an answer for that other than making sure, clarifying that the food truck can be self-sufficient.
So, my experience with food trucks in other cities that I've worked with, that was part of the information given during the fire inspection, is that we were given a list of rules that we had to follow to get that fire inspection. And then once that sticker was in the window, if the fire department came around, and they did come back around, and we were in violation of any of the list of rules that were given to us from the fire department, then it, was a problem.
And
because
if that
now
latitude is there, I think that handles it
so
well.
I guess I've got two thoughts on that. One, I want to try not to get too nitpicky in this, but also want to make sure that we don't just leave it so open-ended that we end up with a different set of rules over there that still makes it difficult to operate. So we got to find some balance there. I think you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to say, there's nothing that prevents you now from, as the fire marshal / fire chief in town, from, if you become aware of or or suspect unsafe wiring in a business, from inspecting that business and from potentially shutting it down until they remedy the situation. Right?
That's correct. Everything that
so I don't think you've got to be empowered by this ordinance to do that, would you? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, cool down times is one thing that is not addressed by this. I think somebody had said something about a 20-minute cool down time. Would anybody be opposed to adding a 20-minute cool down time?
No, it's going to typically take a food truck more than 20 minutes to get packed up and leave
Rainer,
anyway.
can you add that to your list? Wordsmith that somehow. So my recommendation is going to be to move forward tonight with our public hearing. Go ahead and get feedback from anybody who's here, and then I'll entertain a motion to table this so that we can codify the changes that we've suggested tonight, and then vote it up or down at the next meeting. Of course, to do that, we would have to suspend the rules.
Yeah.
But obviously that'll be up to each of us individually whether we want to do that. So if we don't suspend the rules next meeting, it could carry over to the first meeting in October.
So I have one last suggestion, and this after speaking with Billy Powell, because there are some events at the parks that they charge $100 fee for, and we limit them to $150 per year in fees. So my recommendation here was that this permit would be for this Parks and Recs permit would be for non-event times, so that, let's just say, I can envision once that our disc golf course is up and running, that maybe a couple food trucks would want to set up on a Saturday at the park to gather, to get some of that traffic that's coming. Well, they may set up enough times through the year, whether Parks and Rec decides they want to do a $150 annual permit or $10 every Saturday, whatever they decide to do, it could hit $150 if that was a good spot for those trucks to set up on a weekend. Then when that event comes along, they don't have the ability to charge that event fee. Okay. So if we could figure out how to let the attorney take care of that.
You understand the spirit of what he's looking for, right?
Are you going to set
So right now it states that if operating in city park, obtain a permit, follow applicable park rules, regulations, policies, and pay a permit fee on an annual, quarterly, or daily basis in an amount to be established by the City Parks and Recreation Department, but not to cumulatively exceed $150 per year. So this is in addition to the business license. And so the concern with Parks and Rec is that we carve out special events like Children's Day in the Park or something like that, that they could charge a larger fee for that one event. And so if we could just,
You don't want it to be interpreted that paying the 150 different times a year somehow exempts them from
the
the
event
children's
fees,
and the event fee. So okay.
and right now, that's the only tweaks that I really have for
Yeah.
it.
And I'm right comfortable with that provision also. Any other comments on food truck ordinance before we move on to business license fee? So again, what we'll do is we'll go forward with the public hearing, and then I'll entertain a motion to table, because I do think it's important we gather any more additional feedback we need. All right, business license ordinance. Again, everybody should have a copy of that in their packet. Little history lesson here. I think going on 3 years ago, we passed an updated business license ordinance, which very closely resembles the schedule in the back here. We had some public town hall meetings. Lots of work was put into that. It was never implemented. The previous council actually rescinded it because of some implementation issues with some escalating clauses, things like that. Basically, what we've got here, correct me if I'm wrong, is the language and everything up here at the beginning is very, very similar to what we currently have in place. What is changing are the schedules assigned to each individual NACE codes, which again was adopted from the ordinance we passed a few years ago, with some tweaks that make it much easier to implement.
I think some of the feedback we had received was around on the first 20 or so pages. That's our current business license ordinance, 99% of it anyway. And there were some questions about, now we're going to be required to, show audits or produce, business records. And, in doing the research, talking to the staff, the city already has that authority and that ability. And so we're not changing anything on the businesses or trying to get in. This would be more akin to, a business opens. Obviously, let's just say a restaurant, since we were talking about them, maybe some of us have eaten lunch there over the last year, but on a consistent basis, they keep reporting $0 in sales, remitting no sales tax. That would be a trigger point that the city might say, hey, what's going on here? You're not, paying your sales tax to the city or the state. But those are very rare. Rainer, have we ever exercised that authority? And that was adopted in 2007. So I can't say that the city, would.
And that a lot of this just restating authority that state law has codified, right? Okay, so Jonathan, did you have? I know you've had some feedback. Did you want to share any of that with us?
I mean, really, the biggest one was in the manufacturing segment.
That's page 44 in the back.
And just making sure that they had some businesses say that while they might have gross revenues of $10, $20, $30 million in some instances, they might actually lose money in those years. So it is capped at $10,000, but it may make sense to look at a revision of some amount either on the cap or some of the fee structure contained there in the ordinance. It really would apply to a very small amount of our manufacturers to get into that cap. I think that maybe 1 to 2 at the most. But what it does, we just had some conversations about the macroeconomics of it, and other businesses, the majority of businesses come to a city like Enterprise because it's growing. We have high disposable income. People want to shop. They come and incorporate in our city limits to capture that market and compete for the dollars and the services that people that live here can pay to provide. And so, you know, they're a captive audience in a lot of those instances. In manufacturing case, they don't necessarily have to be here to manufacture. They could be at another community. They could be in another state. And so where's that balance between what, you know, discourages new manufacturers and allows them to still be competitive? And that was kind of the discussion we had with some of our local manufacturers.
How does this currently compare to surrounding cities that are trying to attract manufacturing to their city right now?
That's a good question that I don't have an answer for. Tracy, in your research, did you look at our surrounding cities? Okay.
So I know we have some that have done real good at attracting manufacturing lately.
I did. We're not on. I looked at Phoenix City. I looked at Opelika and Auburn, and compared to like Phoenix City, we are still on the low end. Theirs were in excess to something that we had, we'll say $79 million. Their business license was actually about $85,000. So we're nowhere near that since we have a cap at 10. But we also, when I pulled up and was working on the manufacturing, I did pull up the entire state of Alabama to look at the map to see. We didn't want to be too aggressive because there were some places that the manufacturing had closed, and we didn't want to be that city known for that. We still want to be able to track. So that's why we had the different schedules. You had to get at approximately $126 million before you reach that, go over that $10 million cap. And so right now we don't have, we have someone that's close to that, but not have capped out at that moment based on this particular fee. So we're not at the low end where we are right now versus right now, the max we collect is $300. But we're not also at the very top. We didn't want to be even in the middle. We're kind of between the middle and the low, so we can still be attractive to businesses.
You didn't happen to have, just thinking that one of the places that seems to be really picking up on manufacturing lately is Huntsville area. You don't happen to know how we rank with them, do you?
Well, I didn't use Huntsville because
they're the largest.
Exactly.
I get that. They're attracting a lot of people, and it may just be because they're big.
Well, I was looking for cities that had similar as far as
Sure.
population and then proximity to military installations and also have a junior college.
Where Huntsville is big in government,
Exactly.
the whole city.
Absolutely.
Scotty, did you have any questions or feedback?
No, not right now.
Greg, did you have any additional?
No, I just think we need to be real careful to be attracted to manufacturing,
Yeah.
because that is something that concerns me right now.
And you can always change the cap. You can always adjust that if you need to.
If Jonathan, if you had and I know I asked you this earlier, but if you had a recommendation on the manufacturing, what tweak would that be?
I would look at cutting the base amounts in half, or
And keeping the max at the 10?
correct.
I didn't hear you say.
I'm sorry. I'd cut the base amounts in half. And
So those multiples.
So in other words, it starts out maybe at $1,000 plus some fee per dollar sold, and then in the next category it's and then I would just cut those to like 500,000, 15 instead of escalating up. But that's just one recommendation. It's written in a way for all the categories and schedules, so that you don't have to look at this every year or two as people sell more. Like just right now we're going through inflation. As that goes through, the last time most of these were looked at was 1985, which is where this is from. And they have caps here, or caps, I guess, like for instance in construction, the max category is things that are over $50,000. That's pretty much if you build one house right now, you're over $50,000. So it just allows you to stay up with the times more as inflation takes hold.
Would anybody be opposed to to Jonathan's recommendation of that manufacturing tweak. Yeah. Eugene, you got any further comments?
No, but after listening to Tracy and where we stand compared to the other cities, I really don't have a problem with it like it is, but I'm not opposed to changing.
Would it, how would it benefit us to change? I mean, or would it not matter if it changed?
It's hard to say. I mean, would it make us attractive?
Yeah.
Of course, absolutely. But of course, lowering that base amount.
But anything pretty much is going to be more than the $300 we're getting right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But so we should be real attractive right this minute.
Well, I mean, to be clear, you know, I mean, I've been involved through the years with a few recruitment efforts, and you know, business licenses are rarely at the top of the. Now, obviously, if you have something punitive, I mean, that could be an issue. But I mean, you got somebody doing $100, $200 million in revenues. You know, the difference between $300 and $3,000 is not going to move the needle. So would you agree with that, Jonathan?
I would. When we initially started out, though, we were looking at a scalable amount like 1/20th of 1% of gross revenues. And when you start talking about $100 or $200 million a year business, you're talking about $60,000, $100,000.
Of course, this would cap it out.
Correct.
Yep. All right. Yeah, I mean, the notes I had while I went through was on the manufacturing and on that food truck that I brought to y'all's attention earlier, that it did have that trigger in there that Chief Davis had asked about. So I think we're covered there. Those were my notes. So again, I guess I'll make the same recommendation on this, that we go forward with our public hearing tonight, gather any feedback from the public that's available, you know, table it and get it worded exactly how we want it, and then hopefully get it off our table at the next meeting. Anybody opposed to that approach? Okay. All right. Jonathan, Tracy, did y'all have anything further on that? Okay. All right, we're a little behind schedule here. So, Barry, I think you've got a road resurfacing update for us. And Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. President. So Glenn and I have been working together on getting this road, the next phase of the road project, ready for bid. I'll let Glenn get into details with you, but roughly there's 56 roads, 17.5 miles of roads that's going to be in this package. We're coming up with a plan between the two of us for making sure that if it comes in a little bit over bid, make sure we have a contingency plan to bring it back down within budget. The roads that we have picked are the PCI 20 or less. They have a low chance of having utility issues, the low risk 20 and down list. And like I said, 17.5 mile roads. The schedule right now, we want to be under construction in October. Glenn will have the final plans next week to me for final review. We will start advertising on the 22nd of this month. So in 2 weeks, we'll start advertising. By state law, we have to advertise that for 3 weeks. And we'll advertise that. And right now, we are looking at opening bids on October the 12th and being back in front of you for council award on October the 19th and moving forward with construction immediately thereafter. So Glenn and I put our heads together. We wanted to make the October date, but with the 3 week of advertisement time, it pushed us 1 month behind. Glenn, is there anything you want to?
Unless there's a question specifically about the list. It's similar to the list that you've seen before. Obviously, the original list started back in probably late or March or something like that. We were looking at the worst streets in the city based on the assessment that was completed by Barge in June of last year. So we're still using that same list. We kind of paused in that process because of the additional funding that became available through the bond. which opened up a whole another gamut of street options. Coupling that with the water issues that are on some of these streets, it becomes very complex on how these streets are done and how it's phased. So Barry had asked us to kind of pause, take a bigger, broader look at that, and we did, and I think it is going to help the whole process on the next phases, particularly in the water main replacement and how that's going to be phased in. So there's a lot of moving parts to this, but that is the list that we've honed in on. There's a couple of things I think of note on that list. There's some larger, and talking with Jonathan and the mayor, one of the things we wanted to do was possibly do some collector streets in this phase. Those collector streets would involve, for instance, this list starts on East Watts at Main, goes out all the way to East Watts, goes across to Sylvan. Sylvan's in the project, crosses the bypass to Dauphin Street Extension, goes all the way to 27, and then does Porter Lunsford. So it would be a tremendous collector street that would be paved in this project. Freedom Drive is on this list. So is South Industrial Boulevard, which was one that Allen had to have some water main issues fixed out there, which the water department did that internally in this interim as well. And also Wheaton Street Extension is on this list as well. So
we don't have to worry about water main replacement on any of these streets.
There's no water issues according to the water department on these streets.
Any gas issues?
There may be a few gas issues. The gas has got this list. Terry Barnes is working on that with some risers. So I'll follow up with him after tonight and make sure those things are being addressed. And obviously those need to be done.
Now, I noticed Shellfield Road's on here. We talked back before about the roundabout weeding. Is that still? Or
So I got an update today from the consultant on the roundabout. And we're talking through the schedule of what it looks like. The plan right now is to take it right up to where the roundabout is currently planned for in the future. There's only a small gap between, so the roundabout as it sits will basically push out a little bit. But what I recommended to Glenn is we take it all the way to the existing intersection now. That buttons up, we feel about 60% sure with the design as the way the roundabout's laid out now. It still has to be forwarded up through the feds to make sure that the alignment and the layout is in the correct position for what Aldot's going to fund, since Aldot's funding all of the construction dollars for this project. So our plan right now is to take it all the way up to the intersection to where the existing intersection is, knowing that there's going to be maybe a 50-foot section or a 100-foot section that will be torn out and redone by Aldot in a future project.
okay, so Aldot will take care of
Aldot will
whatever
take
we
everything.
do.
There'll be no gap
Okay,
between the Sheffield Road
Right.
and the roundabout the way we've got it designed.
good. Okay.
And Freedom, we're working on sewer project over on Freedom now.
Mhm.
That'll be done by the time we pave this.
And that is looked at a bore for that
Oh, okay.
crossing, so we won't be open cutting that road, and that'll help us to make sure we have no settling in that section where we do the
Okay.
new pavement.
Any other questions?
But just real quick on the list, you can see the PCI numbers. I want you to have that. One thing I'll do, I'll come back to you and show you. I talked to Glenn about coming up with a list. If these roads were taken to 100% PCI, what does that do to move the needle on the project? I'll have that for you as an update at the next meeting.
And I'm assuming this doesn't need to be released to the public at this point, or?
This list will be bid. Every project on this will be a public list. So this is the list that will be put out on the street for bid. So if you want to share this list, this is our next phase of the paving project. There's a lot more to come. But
Sure.
this is the next phase, and you're welcome to share
I
this.
just get a lot of people asking, is my street on?
I understand.
And I just kind of have to.
It's one of those things that is the list that I've asked Glenn to finalize the plans on. This is the list that will be put on the street for bid. That's right.
Yeah.
So there
can
are
see
streets
that.
in every district that's there. One thing that Glenn and I talked about doing was to take this overall map and take the phases and show you where they all are. In my next weekly update, I'll have those maps for you. Yes, sir.
To keep in mind, if somebody asked that possibly their street might be on here and it maybe have a PCI 20 or less, it's because of water main issues or issues with it that will be addressed eventually. So that could be the answer to the question somebody asked.
Our intent, just to make sure, is to tackle the worst roads first. But what we don't want to do is pave a road knowing that we've got a high potential of breakage of a water line. We don't want to pave that road, have to come back and have patches all on this brand new road. So that what we're working on is while he's finishing the plans here, is the next phase to get those utilities to minimize and mitigate the risk of future utility breaks, so that we can tackle the next ones that are between 0 and 20 or 0 and 30 PCI, whatever those are. But we're trying to make sure we use our money efficiently and wisely.
Thanks, Barry.
Council, I just want to point out as well, one of the things that the mayor and the water board are helping work on are utilizing the American Relief Act funds that we receive. And so part of that, water and sewer projects, we have interim final guidance from the Treasury. We're waiting for that final guidance. But water and sewer projects are, we think, very safe for us to spend the money on. With that, we have some sewer issues that we're looking at that will take, I think, a decent portion of that. One recommendation that the mayor and I have been talking about is to propose using the remainder of those funds for water line replacement. And we have well over. I mean, we could probably spend our relief fund. We got $5 million. We could probably spend that 4 times over on water line replacement issues. So that's just one thing that would help expedite this. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of it.
Okay. Any other questions regarding road resurfacing?
Thanks.
All right, we'll move into our agenda review. So everybody should have a copy of the agenda. So the consent agenda is work session minutes and council meeting minutes, accounts payable, contract billings, and travel requests. You'll stop me if you want to talk about any of those. And the mayor's going to recognize the JROTC cadets. Then we will have a permit request, a street closure request, and we'll have privilege of the floor. Keep in mind that we're going to have public hearings immediately following staff reports regarding business license and food trucks. So I'll remind everybody that if they're speaking about those 2 issues, not to come forward then. So we've already discussed the business license code and food trucks. We're going to go forward with our public hearing. Then I'll entertain a motion that we table those for revisions. Then we will have a public hearing for an ABC license request. We'll have our oath of office for Chris Davis. Then we have an Aldot agreement with the Senior Center grant. So, Jonathan, you want to tell us about that?
Sure. So, Billy Powell and Birgit really spearheaded that. It's 80-20 grant, 20% funding from the city. You approved it 2 council meetings ago. We got a call back from Aldot that said they had surplus funds within that account and asked us to resubmit the application with an additional vehicle on it that would be 100% funded. I think in the mayor's report he'll talk about this some more, but we were awarded that grant for the 100%. So we basically got 2 vehicles for the same 20% match.
20% of one.
20% of one vehicle, correct. So, but because that the second vehicle was not in the authorization that you gave the mayor, we wanted to bring it back before the council so that you could see it again.
Okay. I assume everybody's okay with that. Stay up here, Jonathan. I get. Nobody's going to argue with a free vehicle. All right. So tell us about the ALM Economic Development Academy.
Sure. So the Alabama League of Municipalities is taking applications for what they deem an economic development academy. Communities that apply are required to send at least 2 councilmen, mayor, and up to 2 other personnel, city personnel that can attend, for a total of 5. There are 4 sessions that are mandatory to attend throughout the year. It's a 12-month process. And then they have a orientation and a graduation on top of that. I don't have those dates or anything about it. Just wanted to get a resolution passed if you were willing to apply. But part of that is that I have to have a resolution passed by the city council saying that if we were selected, we would basically, be pot committed to doing it. With that, aside from getting some certification from the league, it's a partnership with Alabama Community College System, and allows cities that are growing, and there's a whole list of things that they require, should your community apply, kind of a checklist. And leadership willing to work in critical thinking conversations about the state of their community, to work with K through 12, understanding the community's assets, have an existing community business organization, Chamber of Commerce, Retail Association, active social organizations. So we kind of checked all those blocks. And then basically come up with 3 goals that your municipality would like to achieve. And you'll be given kind of homework, a team of 5 that represent enterprise. And over the time, those 12-month period, they'll have resources. They have a advisory council that the league has set up to converse back and forth with each team that's selected to participate, each community, and give feedback on kind of how that process is going and engaged. Hopefully by the end of it, you've got some tools and additional resources to help you. So you kind of think about it as a strategic planning initiative, and hopefully by the end of it, you've come out with some sort of a plan on how to take the community forward to the next level.
Any questions, concerns about the ALM Economic Development Academy? All right, so the next thing we got to do tonight is set the Halloween trick-or-treat hours. Believe it or not, I've gotten several phone calls about this.
So have I.
Yeah.
A couple of calls I had were from churches, and of course I've had individuals speak to me about Halloween being on Sunday. They were hoping that we would set trick-or-treating for Saturday night.
Is anybody, Eugene's making that suggestion, anybody opposed to that suggestion or have any comments or other suggestions?
I'm not opposed to it.
I personally think that's probably the best idea. So you want to make that motion tonight? So that would be.
And then we need to set the hours.
What are our typical hours? Chief, you got any comments on any of this? You want some input? So Eugene, your motion is going to be 5 to 7. Saturday.
5 to 7.
Yeah. Everybody good with that? You comfortable with Saturday night as opposed to Sunday night? Any other discussion regarding Halloween? All right. Then we'll go into the mayor's report, council comments. I will, since we got a couple minutes, I will bring to everybody's attention. You should have your budget request on our binder. I believe we've got a work session a week from today. Is that right? The 14th, next Tuesday, beginning at 8 a.m. Should be a good meeting. We've got a couple minutes. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss before we take a brief recess? Mayor, you got anything? All right, hearing none, we will adjourn our work session, reconvene here at 6 o'clock for our regular meeting.
I need a bottle of water.
Oh, I do. Gee, would you mind?
Mm-mm. couldn't quit. Good evening,
Hey,
sir.
how are you?
My road wasn't on that pavement,
Did you hear what we said about that?
but yours already paved, man.
Oh, yours not paved at all.
This is a resurfacing.
You need a surface. You're gonna be on the surface.
Stop resurfacing those already paved and paved the one ain't paved.
Well, I agree with some of that.
I don't have potholes, I got ditches.
You got dirt.
One guy actually said, you know, with dirt removal, I said, yeah, I do know. But I was in the county and the city took over. So,
Which road is it?
Davis Road.
Davis, where is that?
It's the last dirt road in Enterprise City limits between 167 and 84 East.
Go to Keaton's Crossroads, take a left, and then take a left again.
Okay. Does it come into the to 84? Does it go all the way into 84?
Well, now,
They're around Fountainville.
Davis Road start at 3 knots. Go down first curve, second curve, then the county takes over. Jimmy Jones over the end back to 84. So it used to be county. I lived at Route 4 about 56 Beach for 30-some years in the city part. And that's the worst thing ever been done. All you have to tell the truth, don't keep it up. The county maintained their end. And it's a lot better than the city. When the guy comes down now, it's scared to go way out the blade and go into that hole.
Oh Lord, let me look at these names. You can
All we need to do is come down.
just say you want
I got that. If I
street.
quit
Well, you know what? We really need to look at it now.
Yeah, I know.
Because just to go on and get it.
Yeah, so we do our head and take what I gotta do then.
Right, but like what you said, keep all that out instead of saying, you know. If it is anybody.
There's several houses back there too. I've been to his house. I've been to talk to him. And we do go in and grade it, but he complains all the time.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got 6 o'clock, so I will call this council meeting of the Enterprise City Council to order. Let the record show that the entire city council is here. So please stand for the opening prayer and pledge allegiance. Is Dr. Granger here? I do not see.
He's not able to be here,
He sent us.
so he sent me instead. I don't know if I'll do any good, but I'll pray for him. Get wisdom, get understanding, forget it not, neither decline from the words of my mouth. If there is a place where we need wisdom, this is the place. Amen.
Amen.
Father, we thank you for this day. We're grateful for your care and your love to us. We thank you for the way you do things, Lord God. And as we go about the difficulties sometimes of living in this world, we're grateful that we are never alone, that you're always a part of our love and care, and you minister to us, Father, each moment of every day. I thank you, Lord God, that we can be a part of this, that this is the city of, I believe, it's a godly place. And I pray, Father, that as we continue on, we look to you for wisdom, direction, guidance, as we go from day to day. And we thank you in Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. All right, Council, you've got the agenda in your packet that we discussed in the work session prior to this meeting, so I will entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, we have the consideration of the consent agenda next. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the council for review, are considered to be routine, and will be enacted by one motion of the City Council with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda by request of a member of the City Council. I will now call for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I will let the record show that I will be abstaining based on a conflict on accounts payable B. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, I will now recognize Mayor Cooper for the presentation of certificates to Enterprise High School JROTC cadets in recognition of their recent accomplishments. Mayor Cooper.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have ROTC, Director of Sergeant Price, and we want to present them some certificates. These group of young men have excelled through the years wherever they go and wherever they participate in. Usually they either come in first or second or whatever. And Sergeant Price, down through the years, along with the staff at the high school, has done a very good job in preparing these young men and women for the military. And I can attest to that because I have a grandson who also came through the program that is now serving as a captain and a Black Hawk pilot. And of course, there are others that have gone and are doing well. So again, we would like to applaud these young men for what they've done and to continue that good work. And one of the many things that we can say about Enterprise, that not only do we play football, but we also have young men and women who are trying to do other things. Let's give them a hand.
So each certificate, I'll read what each certificate says, and then Mayor Cooper will present them individually. It states Certificate of Achievement presented to the cadet by the Office of the Mayor, City of Enterprise, for earning the title of Alabama Drill Team Championship and State of Alabama Drill Team Champion. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of this city to be affixed. Dated this is dated the first day of June, 2021, William B. Cooper, Senior Mayor. Grace Southern. I call Amelia Rogers, Madeline Rodriguez, Valeria Morris, Haley Mason, Brianna LeBlanc, Molly Hutto, Alexa Garcia, Ashley Zabala, Lena Davis, Kendall Cox, Kendall Black, and Nathaniel Barnes.
What we have a bunch of people move DCF. I have 3 girls that have COVID right now. My guys, what we did last year was state drill team championship. The guys did the arm regulation, the arm exhibition, wrist and weapon, and the young ladies did the unarmed stuff. I guess I must have messed up. But we have this Brett, she said he's our commander this year. Brett Maddox, Jake Rowan, Ethan Waters, Kevin Johnson, Colin Hayes Panic, Love Church, Jacob. I always call him by their last name. Carson Real Hard, Kyle Stevens, and Josh Ford. These are the guys. They were the arm champions.
Let's give the young men a standing ovation. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, now we have a request to address the council regarding a permit request from Chris Jones and DAV for the 5K and 1 mile fun run. Is Chris here tonight? All right, so we've got Chris Jones and DAV have requested to address the council to obtain a permit to hold the Disabled American Veterans Chapter 9 Vet Day 5K 1 mile fun run on Saturday, October 23rd, 2021 from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Council, you've got that permit in your packet that was distributed. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? Chief, you on the same page here with them? Everything?
We spoke about it. It's the same route that we ran in the past with other things.
All right. Well, I will entertain a motion to approve the request.
I make a motion, we approve the request for the run.
Is there a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, Tammy, we've got a request to address the council for a street closure request from Tourism Director Tammy Dorr, who has requested to address the council to obtain a permit for the following event: Girls Night Out on Saturday, October 2nd, 2021 from 3 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. The additional request is made to close West College Street from Main to Railroad Street for the event.
That is correct, sir. And it's just a simple closure on West College. We're not closing Main Street. And it's just to do registration and have a vendor and the DJ.
All right. So no Aldot permissions
No
required.
Aldot. And it's also been cleared with the local businesses that are right there.
Okay. Chief Moore? Any?
Yes, sir. I spoke to Cassidy. Again, like I said, it's a simple closing of the street to give them a little more room to registration.
All right. Any questions or concerns from council? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the request.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank you. Buy your tickets.
Do we have any further staff reports that weren't covered in our work session? Anybody from the staff here need to address the council? All right. Hearing none. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of order here. Next item is privilege of the floor. So this is the part of the meeting where anybody here can address the council. Everybody's allowed 3 minutes to address the council. I will note that we've got a few public hearings down here in old business regarding the implementation of a new business license code, the food truck ordinance, and the Simpson Group LLC ABC license request. If you're here to address us regarding any of those 3 items, please hold your comments for the public hearing section. This privilege of the floor is for anything other than that. So is there anybody here that wishes to address the council? Anybody else? All right.
3 issues today. A couple of them have been here before.
Just make sure everybody knows your name, Mr. Kirk.
Please use the mic, please.
Okay. Do we still have a code enforcement officer that's working the streets to ensure that keeping the city looking nice? Needs to go down Apache Drive. Once again, it is overwhelmed from beginning to end with trash. And it's been a while since the apartment owners have been out there. Second issue I have is the bridge on Dixie Drive. The city came out about a year ago and did a little bit of patching on both ends of it to try to smooth out the transition. That's receded into it's now effectively a speed bump. You can do about 10 miles an hour going over there without damaging your vehicle. Last issue I have is the paving on Highway 27 in front of the YMCA soccer field. The state, during the paving, whoever the contractor was, damaged 2 of the storm drain covers to the point that they're just shattered to pieces.
So about the manhole covers or the storm drain?
Storm drain, not the
Actual
manhole.
storm drain. Okay.
Off to the side there. So is there any way the city could go maybe entice the state to come back in and get these fixed? Because they're really, besides the fact there's large chunks of concrete laying around there, they're just ineffective. They're going to lead to an accident, and you guys are going to end up having to get your lawyer busy. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bench. All right, so we will move on to old business. I will now call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 081721-C, providing for the implementation of a new business license code and schedule for the City of Enterprise as of January 1st, 2022 and thereafter. So I will now call this public hearing open. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against the business license code, which is ordinance 081721-C? All right. Hearing from no one, I will now close the hearing. And as discussed in our work session prior, for the benefit of those of you that were not there, we discussed making a few small tweaks to that. So I will entertain a motion to table this ordinance until the next meeting so that we can accommodate those tweaks.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries and the ordinance is tabled. All right, I will now call for a public hearing prior to consideration of ordinance 081721-D, providing for and regulating food trucks in the City of Enterprise. So this hearing is now open. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against? All right, hearing none, I will now close the hearing. And again, we discussed tabling this in the work session prior to make some tweaks to that. So I will entertain a motion to table this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table the ordinance. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The ordinance is tabled. All right, I will now call for a public hearing prior to consideration of a request from the Simpson Group, LLC, doing business as Pop's Restaurant, for a restaurant retail liquor license located at 1016 Rook Boulevard. This public hearing is now open. Is anybody here to speak for or against? All right, hearing none, I will now close the hearing. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the request.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll now move into new business. Mayor Cooper, you will administer the oath of office to Fire Chief Christopher Davis. Chief Davis wants to come forward with any family that wish to accompany him.
Hopefully all of them. They traveled far enough. No, trust me, Katie's gonna set us up for victory.
He's the chief. He's in charge.
Keith Davis, we're gonna ask you to raise your right hand.
Now I gotta cut down my arm.
Making my orders here. Okay, oath of office. I, Chris Davis,
I, Chris Davis,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of Alabama
of the State of Alabama,
as long
as long
as I continue
as I continue
a citizen
a citizen
thereof.
thereof,
And I will faithfully
and I will faithfully
and honestly
and honestly
discharge
discharge
the duties
the duties
of the office
of the office
upon
upon
which I'm about
which I am about
to enter
to enter
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. You got to give a 35-minute speech.
35?
I know.
I can.
No, I'm just
There'll be
kidding.
an uprising. It'll be the shortest fire chief in the league. I got people nodding already. No.
I was just kidding. Chief is all you.
It's not often. I'll be quick. It's not often. It's up to you. It's not often that you get to say thank you in public. So this is my shot. First off, the council, Jonathan, and the mayor. I appreciate this opportunity, and I'll make you proud. Chief Herring.
He's back in the back.
Oh. I've told you thank you 1,000 times. It doesn't do it justice. You've been a fantastic mentor, and I'm prepared for this job because of you. Thank you very much. You mean the world to the family, and I do thank you, Jamie. Past that, my father. If anybody here doesn't like me, it's his fault. I'm a carbon copy. I'm just a little tall. You've been the best father ever. I wouldn't be who I am without you. More ways than one. Thank you very much. I couldn't ask for better. Same as with my daughters, who are about to start crying. One thing about the fire service is that it comes with built-in guilt because of the number of birthdays and everything that you miss out on. Birthdays, recitals, you name it. Don't go looking at me like that. Only human. They've been nothing but supportive my entire career, even when it has taken me away. And for that, very much appreciative. And Nick, one of the things that a father wants is to know that his daughter is protected. And he is the best son-in-law on the planet. I got him. Couldn't be happier. And my wife, Karen. You've been the best stepmother on the planet. I appreciate you. You yell at me just enough. Don't make coffee, but just enough. And Aaron, being a firefighter is difficult on marriages. I am without a doubt, at times, terrible husband. Hands down. Not intentional. As she is agreeing, unfortunately, in public. For that. Education, my job, working too many hours. I would not have succeeded in all of my goals without you, and I appreciate it, Jimmy. Thank you very much. I'm going to do my best. The fire department, I got to thank them. Every single member of the fire department has been phenomenal through this transition. We went from all the experience on the planet to them giving me an opportunity. All of the firefighters have been fantastic. I want to thank them. They deserve it. They've been doing a lot of hard work, and I've been throwing a lot at them. And that includes Kelly Curtis, because if I don't mention her, she will kill me. And if she stops taking care of my messages at some level, I'm drowning. So that's everybody that I want to thank. I appreciate all of you. I appreciate all the support the fire department's got, and I'm excited about this with the Enterprise Fire Department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Chief Davis. Certainly look forward to continued work with you. I know I joined the mayor and the council in telling you and your family congratulations. All right, so moving on to review and consider Resolution 090721, which is authorized the Aldot agreement and the Senior Center grant. So I introduce and call for consideration of Resolution 090721, providing for an agreement with the Alabama Department of Transportation relative to a pass-through of federal funds for a capital assistance project for the transportation of senior citizens. Funds will be utilized to purchase a 15-passenger transit van previously approved by the council for funding. Resolution 090721 further authorizes the mayor to execute the final agreement with the state. So I will entertain a motion to adopt resolution 090721.
I move that we adopt the resolution of 90721.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I will now introduce and call for consideration of 090721A, providing to authorize the city's participation in the Alabama League of Municipalities Economic Development Academy. So council, as discussed in the work session, this is just adopting this resolution so that we can apply for admission to the academy. We'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, so we're now going to set the trick-or-treat hours. So I'll introduce and call for consideration of a request to set the official hours of trick-or-treating in the city of Enterprise. With Halloween is on Sunday, October 31st. So I'll entertain a motion to set the hours.
Mr. President, I would like to set the date to be on Saturday the 30th and the hours from 5 to 7 p.m.
Council, is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for Saturday, October 30th from 5 to 7 p.m. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mayor, it's your turn.
Mr. President, News report, Parks and Recreation, Girls Volleyball League, games to begin September the 20th. Flag Football League, games to begin September 13th. Tackle Football League, games to begin September the 18th. Youth Basketball registration begin October the 4th through the 15th for boys and girls, ages 5 through 18. Tournaments and events, September the 25th, USSA Girls Fast Pitch Softball Tournament. Project, playground equipment in Westside Park is about 99% complete. We're working on developing a disc golf course at John Hills and Park. Our plans are to complete it sometime this fall. Engineering department, permits approved. Single family detachments, $2,771,060. Residential additions, 12, $187,362. New commercial, $1,498,000. Commercial additions, $1,356,512. Nuisance properties, investigates 32, verbal contact 6, email 2, notification mail 22, properties without progress 11, properties mitigated 18. From the fire department, 2 certified firefighters, 4 new non-certified recruits. September the 7th, 2021, training began at the Dothan Fire Department for certification school. I also think that during this time we are now hired a new female firefighter for the city of Enterprise, Alabama. Upon completion in 11 weeks, the Enterprise Fire Department should be fully staffed. Water Department, there were 18 new construction water meter services installed in the month of August. The Don Smith Company is about 90% complete for well 4A. The drilling of Highway 167 North Well 6A is complete. It will be installed in the pump and started on the building this month. Miscellaneous. Honeybee Day at the Farmers Market was a huge success with over 1,000 visiting throughout the day. The City of Enterprise has been approved for its application for federal funds in the amount of $316,236.26 for a sidewalk project along the Daleville Avenue corridor. So this is gonna be a plus for what we call Bennett side leading out to the bypass with the new sidewalk project. City of Enterprise has submitted a grant for a new modified van for the senior center and was granted a van with 20% match, but also was awarded another van at no cost to the city. Thus, the city will receive 2 new vans for the price of 1. Mr. President, these are the comments from the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Sonia?
Glad to see everyone out tonight. Thank you for always addressing us, sir, with our needs and concerns. I certainly am excited to learn of our grant that we received for the sidewalk project along Delville Avenue. So I want to thank Barry and all involved who resubmitted for that grant. We actually were not rewarded the grant and reapplied, made some adjustments, and so we're excited about that. So we're looking forward to that, and thank everyone for coming in. Congratulations, Chief Davis and your family.
Eugene?
Congratulations to Chief Davis. We're certainly glad to have you on board. This past weekend was Labor Day, and we are all supposed to be appreciating our workers. And with this pandemic we've had and so many workers out, let's pray that they could all get back to work. Thank you for coming tonight.
Councilman Paget?
Thank all of you for coming tonight. Also like to congratulate Chief Davis. I'm glad to have you on board with the city. Mayor mentioned earlier the disc golf course that's being worked on at the Johnny Henderson Park. The Wiregrass Disc Golf Club came out and set up temporary baskets throughout the entire course on Saturday, and I was able to join them play, I think, the first 8 holes before I ditched, but it was had a lot of fun, and I think I'll be out there quite often playing disc golf once that course is complete. And once again, thank all of you for coming. I'm also very excited what we talked about in the work session about all these streets that are about to be repaved. I'm looking forward to seeing these improvements in our city.
Councilman Johnson?
Yeah, I also like to thank Chief Davis and for his family for traveling so far. It's awesome. I've worked with the chief since 2010 on the CERT program, and I look forward to the next 10, 20, 30 years, as long as the good Lord takes care of me and with the CERT program with the Enterprise Fire Department. They're truly the best fire department around in the state. Congratulate our JRTC. Those young cadets are always so sharp out there. I would like to mention one event that's happening on 9/11 out at Henderson Park. It's September the 11th. It's called Patriot Day. It's to celebrate the 20th anniversary of 9/11. It's an event to honor those who go towards danger rather not away from it. And there'll be a short ceremony at 10 o'clock honoring our police, fire, deputies, rescue squad, and our community emergency response team. That'll be a great event for everybody to attend. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And it's great seeing you guys again. And thank you to everybody that's online, all our citizens that are watching us tonight. God bless.
Yeah, thank everybody for coming, Mr. Bench. Like Sonia said, I'll follow up on these 3 items that you brought to us. Thank you for, as always, for bringing those to our attention. Chief Davis, congratulations again. Chief Aaron, glad you could join us. Don't be a stranger, but thank you to the family, because I certainly it never can be understated how important it is to have an understanding family for our first responders. So thank y'all very much. And Sonia, thank you for fighting for that sidewalk project we finally got. So I know that's going to be wonderful for that side of town. But so that's all we got. Y'all have a good evening. We are adjourned.